and dive right in. All right, everyone, welcome to our first MVP Office Hours of 2024. I am Squire Kirshner. I'm joined by my good friend and colleague Dale Ziegler. Say hi, Dale.
Hi, Dale.
And I'm also joined by all of my other friends and colleagues on the call. I see lots of familiar faces. It's nice to have you all back. Let's just kick off right away with the normal stuff. You can reach out to Dale or myself or Joy with questions or follow-ups on LinkedIn. We do have a Twitter handle for MVP Office Hours, but your best bet is always to use Success instead of Twitter or LinkedIn, or even our email address. Success is the best way to contact us and all the other super smart, friendly, and helpful people that join us every week. So let's start off 2024 that way. Our next meeting, we always go Mondays, not Mondays, first and third Friday of every month. We're right on track for a 119 session at the end of January. Thank you for joining. Our normal process is everyone shares, everyone participates, everyone has questions, everyone has answers. We're all here together, so feel free to jump in and help each other wherever you can. If you've got a question, you can put it in the chat and we'll add you to the queue, or you can just raise your hand in Zoom if you prefer. Post any links you want, additional information or any help anyone needs, put it in the chat. Oh, good call, Joy. Joy will be trying to join later. She's got her hands full today with a couple things. If she doesn't join, feel free to reach out and say hi, because her birthday was just last week and a half ago. So she misses us all, I'm sure. As far as sharing, don't forget, we are recording. You saw a little pop-up here. So if you record, we ask that you not share proprietary information or something that can't be on the internet forever and ever and ever, because it will be. And if you can't be recorded, then we have to ask you to drop, because we're not going to be able to edit you out. And we always want to stay informal and fun, but we want to stay professional. Remember, it's always the internet's for forever. So keep your comments and commentary above the line whenever possible. And with that, just quick summary. Nothing's really changed as far as the upcoming community events. Philippines Dreamin', Cactus Forest, Japan are all coming up in the January timeframe. Snow Forest and Texas Dreamin' are the next couple that I saw on the site. And of course, Trailblazer DX in March is just around the corner. How many people thinking about TDX? I know I am. I'm looking forward to it. Got a couple hands up. Cool. If there is a community event that you're aware of that I missed, feel free to let us know. I'll make sure I don't miss it next time. Or shout it out right now if you want to.
Shouting out Cairo Dreaming. Cairo Dreaming in 28 days. If you are in the country of Egypt right now, which you might be, you never know, head over to cairodreamin.org or whatever. Just Google it. You'll find you can still register for it, and they've got some great keynote speakers. I just saw those were announced the other day.
And
Thanks, Sue.
28 days, there's still cheap flights to Cairo.
Yeah, 28 days.
I'll be there. Y'all
It's
come.
warm.
It's
Melissa, you hope your throat's better by then. You sound pretty sad.
Since I'm presenting, I hope so too, but y'all don't want to miss Cairo Dreamin'. It's going to be great. It's the inaugural one. Sharif Shalon and his team have already got so many fun things planned. It's right across literally from the pyramids at Giza. And he's got a tour planned the day after the event to tour the pyramids. Like I say, it's still 28 days out. It's cheaper than going to Europe.
And the food is going to be great too, because I've already been told they're going to have some good catering coming in. So should be really good.
Y'all don't want to miss it.
Thank you all. I also saw Check Dreamin' and Post Dreamin' posted in the chat. I will give attention to all of these before our next meeting to make sure everyone's aware. Obviously, Cairo Dreamin' is coming up fast. Probably have to be there or registered before the next meet, but I'll definitely get the others on the chat. But of course, all of these things I hope are posted on the event link on Trailhead. So keep that bookmarked, because it'd be the best way to stay ahead of it. I'm only as good as I can pull together on a Friday morning. All right, and with that, we had two questions that came through in the Success community. There were a couple posts and some interactions there, but I thought they might be good opportunities to have a conversation. So the first one is Rochelle, you had posted that you were looking for some help with having a Microsoft, I believe, Teams. I think you just called out Teams, but a Microsoft Teams link show up automatically in Salesforce messages. If you're available, do you want to speak a little bit more to that question? And did you get it answered?
Hi, thanks, Squire. This has been a problem that I've been facing or dealing with since August, and our company uses Teams for our meetings, and right now the salespeople who are being asked to record meetings in Salesforce don't like the fact that they have to go into Salesforce, create the meeting, send it to the customer, then go into Teams, put a Teams link on that meeting, and then what ends up happening is that the customer receives a secondary link, like an email with a Microsoft Teams link on it. And there's no action for the customer because if they've accepted the first meeting, there's nothing that they need to do for the second email. But our salespeople are pretty persnickety and they don't like it. I've gone around and around with not only asking people and trying to figure out how to get a Teams link put into the side panel in Salesforce. And just as recently, somebody on the Salesforce side sent me this huge document that was actually from Microsoft Teams about creating some link. It's way above my pay grade, to be honest with you. I have no idea. I read this document, and it's a developer's document, so it's not something that is something I'd be able to do. I just want to know from the community, is there something else I'm missing? Are other people having the same issues by using Teams meetings when creating them in Salesforce, or is my company just a bunch of whiny, complaining babies about it?
So there may be a number of like App Exchange packages and third-party ways to do it, and different ways you could code your way into getting this to work. However, this might be a place where Salesforce architects would say use Salesforce licensing to your advantage, even though there is money possibly involved in it.
Mhm.
Salesforce does sell a licensed product called Salesforce Meetings.
Yes.
It was announced a little over a year ago, and that tool is meant to do exactly what you're talking about. It integrates with Teams and then brings Teams in to Salesforce to manage the meeting right inside of Salesforce Meetings.
Yeah.
And I've seen it demoed many times. My organization has not used it, but I believe this is an additional license or additional cost.
Yes.
But it's one of these areas where sometimes paying the money to get the product is going to save you time and headaches, and be worth it to have the right product in the right place.
Gotcha. Yeah, Salesforce meetings. I've already reached out to Salesforce about it. My account manager gave me a price on it. The issue is, and this is just something that comes up all the time, is that they won't allow me to just get a license for the 8 users or 8 salespeople that would use this tool. They want to basically sell it to all the users in our org, and that's just a really hard, bitter pill for me to bring up to our owner of our company, that everybody, there's about 40 of us here, that everybody would have to have this licensing, even though only the 8 people would actually utilize it. I appreciate your input on that. It's just I think that really the issue is a little bit more deep seated. It's the fact that in the past we've never asked salespeople to put in activities into Salesforce, and all of a sudden, after 12 years, our owner is asking that salespeople show where they're spending their time with customers. So I don't think any sort of tool, as easy as it could possibly be, is going to make them happy, because they're just not happy with having to be accountable. So with that said, I appreciate it. I just wanted to know if anybody else is facing issues and trials and tribulations like I am. It's hard because I'm all by myself also, and it's there's, you know, I don't even have an IT department, to be honest with you. That's why many times I come to these meetings, I learn something, because there's, you know, it's wonderful that you guys share your knowledge.
Well, first of all,
I have a
thank you for sharing that. I just want to stop and just say you're not alone there. If and when Joy gets here, Joy is a good example in our group of somebody that started out in the sales area, and I don't think she had much support when she started either. A lot of us in this room probably have felt the same way. So that feeling is real, and don't ignore that feeling. And so definitely we're here to listen and support you on that.
My first 6 years was as a solo admin, and I was in sales operations, not IT. So I was struggling just to get an answer. So
yeah, I honestly, it's not a role I really feel very comfortable in, because like I said, our company doesn't even have an IT department. So I've been asked to do so many things that are out of my realm that is not even Salesforce related. You know, they should be paying me 2 salaries. So
I solo admin here. Also, I run the IT department at the company, all of our
Oh, wow.
emails, Office 365, all of it, because solo admin, small business. I don't have anyone else. I have a couple quick questions for you. Sounds like we're in a similar-ish role of it.
Mhm.
Who required you to buy for the entire org? Is that the AE who's telling you have to?
Salesforce, yes, my IE. Mhm.
And you have like a named AE. It's not like a team.
Yes.
but
And
also
they're-
verify, is that coming from documentation that says that, or is that just the AE saying it? 'Cause
Yeah.
if it's
That's AE.
documentation, then
Yeah,
Um,
that's AE. You know, I find myself flustered because Salesforce, anytime I reach out to them, it's always, yes, you need to buy this licensing, and it's for everybody in the organization. And we're a really small company. So it's just,
There's very few things that are physically required to have the whole org. Just so you know, that's just an AE that may. I'm gonna be careful as word it. That may be an AE who's just trying to make you buy more, because there's few things that are required. Like sandboxes are as a % org wide. There's org edition, which is
Mhm.
org wide. But outside of those couple things, there's very few that are not per user. They might want to sell you everything. So you might want to look at that. The other thing is, if you're just looking at the accountability thing, why wouldn't just Einstein Activity Capture work? It would sync in their calendar with the email or with the Teams meeting. It'll sync in as an event inside of the org, and then you can report on it. Does that not solve the accountability side?
Not. We have some issues. They're all homegrown issues with the AE activity capture. Our org was set up based on billing address locations for accounts, and what happens is that we have the same contacts. We have duplicate contacts that might appear in maybe 2, 3, or 4 accounts. So if the owner of the company is wanting to know what did you meet on, the salespeople are really struggling to understand that they should be creating the meetings or any sort of activity on the actual object, not just on any of the contacts that they pick up.
Have you looked at multiple contacts to accounts? Like you can have one contact related to multiple accounts.
Yes.
And you chose to not go that route.
Exactly. And the Einstein Activity Capture, it just doesn't seem to tie in to the activities to the correct object or the correct opportunity. And what I keep telling everyone is that if they created their meeting on the right opportunity, everything would relate properly. However, like I said, they might just pick up any old contact. Let's say the guy shows up in 5 different accounts, and then they start their meeting putting it into Salesforce. So now all the details of that meetings are in the wrong account or the wrong opportunity. The right person, but the person shows up in our org 5 times. So it's just, we are actually re-looking at the way that the org was set up. I guess back in 2012, our company rushed to get Salesforce because they used to use Lotus Notes, and they had somebody from Salesforce come and help them. Some of the things that they did is really biting us in the butt now. I mean, it's just, I know it's, 12 years later, but it's really causing us a lot of pain and headaches.
Well, so to be fair, like 12 years times 3 releases, that's 36 releases worth of functionality ago that if
Yes.
I hear what you're saying, I hear where you're going. Do need to bear that in mind though. 36 releases is a ton, and not to mention Lightning. Lightning happened in those 36 releases too, so a lot has happened. But
yeah, I've come to this meeting a couple times and mentioned our company bought a Cadillac when in fact a bicycle would have done a decent job for what they needed it for. They used to just use Salesforce to enter orders. That's it. They would enter an order, and they didn't even pay much attention to any sort of the actual functionality of Salesforce. So with that said, I'm sure that they were the ones who pretty much prompted Salesforce not to say, this is not the most, the best way of method of setting up your org. So that's why I really honestly, I think that, when they came board and they said we're going to use Salesforce, they had no clue what they actually bought. Somebody must have really sold them a lot.
Let's
Some of this,
Let's
Squire,
Go ahead. No, go
are
ahead, Stu.
you
Sorry.
trying to get us to move to a different question?
I just don't want us to get too far off the reservation.
Yes.
No, but I do want to mention that because I'm really feeling for what's going on with Rochelle. When I started out, I started out in a nonprofit media organization, and I felt very quickly in the weeds because it was set up by a vendor and not a Salesforce certified vendor. And so I felt like I was in the same situation you're in, just with different tools. There is a place, and you may not want to hear this, but somebody that listens to this recording is going to want to hear this. At some point in time, you might ask for help. In my early org, I asked for help, and we called in a Salesforce certified consulting firm to come in and not just look at how Salesforce was set up, but to look at how we were using it for the business. Are the business processes matching up with how Salesforce is set up? And that helped me out quite a bit. And I know that means you have to spend some money, you have to spend some time to work with them, but there are some really good Salesforce partners out there that come in just for this sort of thing. And whether you call it a reboot or refactoring or whatever, there might come a time where someone, I'm not saying that's you, needs this, like, I just need someone to come in and look at what's done and tell me what's right and what's wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
We worked with an integration when I first started. That's why I was brought on to this company, and they tried to talk to management about some of the issues and things like that. So it's a lot of money. I think that we are going to find ourselves with another outside company, possibly this year, that's going to be possibly looking into overhauling our entire Salesforce. So I agree with you. I think that, they hired an admin, but what they really need is an architect. So.
Well, let's not. I'm gonna make you give yourself credit where credit's due and say there's 2 problems happening here. What they have a technical problem, and then they have like a cultural or change problem, and those things aren't necessarily the responsibility of an admin or an architect, but it's important to call out and differentiate. And Stu, maybe what you're suggesting there is like, sometimes it's an important step to say, I can keep achieving what you're asking me to do, but we continue to go in the wrong direction as far as innovation. We need someone to come in and redirect leadership and the technical direction or plan so that I feel like I'm succeeding and the business is succeeding. It's not about whether you as an admin or an architect can answer that question. Stu, did I put words in your mouth there?
No, you're right. You're on the right track. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, not necessarily an architect you need. Sometimes the best architects I've seen are business analysts that just have a way of communicating with leadership, communicating with the business managers and saying, how do you actually want your business objectives to be met? Let me help you write those down and then explain and then work with the technology team to try and figure out how to explain that best. So.
And I'd also offer there's a little bit of there's a nuance to like as like it's you probably going to your leadership, Rochelle, and making that statement. There's a real nuance to saying it's not because I can't or I'm not capable. I need the help and guidance of someone that you appreciate differently because you're paying for that consulting like interaction. Like sometimes it just all it takes is someone wearing a badge that says I'm a consultant and everybody listens for whatever reason, right? So I cut somebody off.
Well, I really appreciate your insight. I can't agree more. I mean, again, I love coming to these meetings. I look forward to them because it always makes me feel like I'm not alone. Thank you for all of your input.
You bet. You bet. Okay, so let's pivot. Did I see Marilyn join? Didn't. Okay. There's a really interesting post in Success, if you haven't seen it, a conversation about Marilyn has a bot doing work on the case side, and they wanted an alert to see if the bot was actually doing the work, like check every 4 hours if that user had actually done anything. And it turned into a little bit of a thread of conversation. I don't know if it's been resolved. There was a lot of like, why are you doing that? Or is there a better way to do that? Or et cetera. So without her here to give color, I don't think we can spend any time on it. But if you've got some input and you want to read it, it's in the most recent posts. And in fact, the link here is right there. So feel free to share if you think you've got some help for Marilyn. So, all right. Having said that, we had a lot of really good posts and questions during the conversation with Rochelle. Did I miss a question?
Yeah, Squire, I put one into the community. Sorry, I put it up right at the beginning of the meeting.
That's okay. Let's jump over there. Why don't you go ahead and give us the update while I bring it up?
Well, pretty much the fields are there, but the labels are missing. And when I went in to look at it, all I needed to do was refresh the page and the labels reappeared. But my client, even after logging out and logging back in and or clearing the cache, was still saying that their labels are missing. Now I did give them a screenshot with the labels and so they could still enter everything. Because this is on the new thing. And when I first went in and looked, it was actually missing on the record page as well, but it was only on this particular object. And I'm just curious if anybody has seen this and or if they have, how did they solve it? There's a solution, or is it just wait until it resets? Or
are you using dynamic pages, or is this just standard? You haven't touched the pages at all?
as far as I know, this is just a standard page.
And what browser are you in?
I personally am in Chrome.
What about you're
yeah.
seeing the field labels. It's your client who isn't.
Yeah, well,
What-
at first I didn't see them either, but like I said, I just refreshed the page and they reappeared. And then I signed out and went back in and they disappeared again. Again, I refreshed and they would be there and then they were just there for the rest of the day. This was going on and off for me yesterday.
Production or sandbox?
Hmm?
Is
Production.
It's in production.
Yep.
Have you?
Is the label there but not displayed? Or is there, like, if you hover over where the label would be, is there something sitting there in the page? Or is it completely, like sometimes like an image doesn't load and you get a little error. Is it there but not there?
I never actually tried hovering over it when it was blank on my end to see.
Or even selecting it, like sometimes you can pick the box where the label is supposed
Yeah, oh,
to
you could pick the boxes and you can do all the entries. It's
No, on the labels.
Oh.
Sorry, not on the
Oh.
boxes.
Like you're basically highlighting white on white
Yeah.
to make it appear.
You know what? Honestly, that's one thing I didn't even try to do.
Okay.
You shouldn't have to. Shouldn't have to. Where I was
No.
going with the question about production and sandbox though is, did you go to status.salesforce.com to see if that NA123 or whatever was having any kind of issues whatsoever?
Didn't think of that either. I'm
And the
still
reason-
coming back from being off for a month, so.
No, you're good. Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
the reason,
okay.
reason I was asking about whether the label's there or not is it might tell you whether it's a render issue or like a graphics issue or a font issue. Like it might be something specific to the browser, not to the page itself. If you know what's supposed to be there and not displaying.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and like I said, at one point I was seeing it just fine on my user, and they weren't seeing. They were claiming they still couldn't see it. So, but I never thought of asking about the browser or checking status. So those are at least two good places to look if the situation continues.
Especially with the browser and Chrome. I mean, Google is persistently pushing updates to Chrome for any myriad of reasons. If you ever look at a Chrome version browser, it's like 0.7 digits because it's just so many iterations that, for all you know, like you and your client just happened to both be on a version that was having a weird bug that had nothing to do with Salesforce, but the way it all rendered out was, ta-da, you have white on white. That then maybe got updated over again. It maybe wasn't a Salesforce issue. It was an unfortunate Chrome issue that go to lunch, come back, and because it's persistently updating may have gone away. Like sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
I love the
Browser
fact-
extensions is the other thing that Sarah mentioned. That's why I don't use browser extensions personally, but that's also potential.
I love the fact that you're all going towards answers that are not Salesforce related, but that's fine. Like it could be the browser, it could be that it's a Tuesday, it's raining, it could be that my dog ate my homework.
I said status. I said status.
Status.salesforce.com. Sure, go there. But my mind was going a different place, such as maybe because I've been studying the security architecture guide, which is what would make a page look different for one user but not the other user. And so I'd look at
Profiles.
the security roles. Are they in the same profile or permission sets and roles? What's the field security for those fields in question? What are the page layouts? Are there multiple page layouts that could be assigned to that?
Well, none of that's changed, and this is
none of it's
something they use all
going
the
on.
time.
Yep.
So Stu, I'm curious though. Like I hear you, and I thought about asking that until I heard, okay, this.
But
is just a field label thing.
Kathy's a smart admin and she knows this stuff, and it wouldn't have been in her org. No, those things wouldn't have been
Stu.
changed.
No, what I was going to ask Stu is where are you going with that? Because it became white on white. The only thing I could possibly think of is this actually on some kind of a custom component versus an actual out of the box page layout.
Yeah, and I didn't create this is a custom object, and I wasn't around when this was created. So that
Not
I
a custom
wondered if that
object.
could have happened.
Even custom object use standard.
Yeah.
standard
Yeah.
pages. Is it a custom?
Yeah, as far as I
agreement?
know, they were standard. So, and like I said, they used it a couple of days ago and it was fine. And then suddenly yesterday it disappeared and they're all going, it's not working.
Well, and the weird part is the field is there. It's just the label that's missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the weird part, which makes me think it's not Salesforce.
Yeah, it makes me think like the modal doesn't know how to load the attributes, but it's loading the data fields underneath or something, right?
Yeah,
Could
I was going to
Salesforce
suggest
Live?
maybe also like inspect element in your
Yep.
Chrome browser to see what's going on with the HTML,
Okay.
the CSS, something weird. Not that you can always get that far into it because it's so hidden, but
Well, Lacey, you've given me some places to also take a look and or questions to ask if it's continuing.
And was
I-
it just that one page or was it across other objects too?
Nope, just that one object. The rest of the objects were just fine.
I have seen this sort of thing happen when looking at custom LWCs and flex pages and a lightning screen. And then what we had the user do is, okay, so go back to classic. If you were to switch over to classic, which your users might not be able to do because you've shut that off altogether.
Mm-hmm.
But what about this page? Because it's a UI issue. So Dale's now correcting me that this is a UI issue, not a security issue. Because they're not able to see the label. You'll be able to see everything else but the label.
Yeah. Well, I still checked the security. First thing was set up audit trail. What did somebody change lately? And nobody changed anything. So it was like, okay, well, it's not that, or at least not anything obvious. And I checked the security just because first thing I thought of. But
If you add a help text, does the little I next to it show up for the help text?
like I said, it was showing up for me, so it's hard for me to check any
Well,
of them.
Well, for the other, like what I was asking, if you put help text next to the field, does like, yeah, we know the label isn't showing above the field, but maybe like that I would show, and that might kind of lead like, do you see what I'm saying? Like they might not be the part in like the back end of Salesforce that controls the label not showing might be a little bit separate from like the help text. So that might help to figure out what it is. And if like the help text little I thing that you hover over that shows what it is showed, I'd say log in cases Salesforce if one shows and the other isn't. Also, just cookies cache straight up, like
Yeah,
95% of the
and
stuff.
They apparently cleared that, so
have them restart their whole computer.
they did
People
that
say they
too.
clear it, but like incognito mode Chrome also. You tried that?
You know what? I'll suggest incognito mode next time as
That
well.
is the first thing I try. I test like whenever
That's
there's
a
weird
good
UI
idea.
stuff.
But yeah, and when I logged in as this particular, like did the login as this particular user, I saw it just fine. So
Kathy, if you know who this is, when you look at their login history, you should be able to tell what browser they're using. You might realize that if they're using Firefox, you can just go over and smack them.
okay, yep, that's true.
Um,
Yeah,
I-
that's one I did forget to check that, so I will go in and check that and see.
do you know, were the fields working, just the labels not loading in the modal, or was the whole thing dead?
As far as I know, from what I understand, the fields were still working.
Okay.
Because when I went in, I could sort of, I mean, I didn't actually create anything because it is in production, but you know, I could still access it. They like their main thing was they said, "Oh, one of the fields disappeared," and I was like, going, "What?" And the field they're talking about is that little checkbox under no membership.
Yep.
That's the particular field they were looking for, and they thought it had disappeared because they couldn't see the label, but the field was actually still there. But
Oh, you know what? So one other thing to think about, since this field, if the fields are working and it's loading, it makes me think it's not a security thing. It's either a browser thing, or are you dealing with a translation situation here at all?
shouldn't.
Okay, because I have seen that where someone builds a translation, like turns on a translation for their region, but there's no translations in place, so it doesn't know how to turn name into X. But that's a real random thought.
Translations will still default if it doesn't have a translation, it'll default to whatever is at the
Oh, it
field.
will, okay, so it's not, it doesn't, if it sees null, it goes back to name,
Mhm.
got it, all right.
Sorry, I'm laughing at Netscape when it caused this issue.
Hey, someone got it.
I remember Netscape. Anyways, okay. Thanks for all the tips. Yeah,
Hold on,
we'll
hold on,
see if it continues, and we'll try all sorts of other things first.
okay,
But yeah, thank you.
that's a fun one. I wanna know,
Okay.
Did you log a case with Salesforce yet? That generally works too.
yeah, but if you can't
Out
prove
there.
it, it can't help you, right? They always wanna reproduce it before they'll talk to you.
They have to be able to touch
And like
it.
I said, since I can see it, it's hard for me to sort of, I need them to do the argument because I'm like going, I see it just fine. So I feel like I'd be like, Salesforce would say, it's like, well, I can see it, so we're not
Yeah.
sure.
What the hell are you talking about, right? Dismiss it as lightning.
So I'll look into the other things and then see if we can find a solution. Or it may have just come back on its own. Who knows?
It never happened, nothing to see here.
Nothing to see. Alrighty, thanks everyone.
All right, I don't think I saw anybody else put their hand up, but there's gotta be something out there. I can lament about my password reset issues, but we did that last time.
If truly Kathy can't get those labels to show up, then we could do Andrew's idea, which is just create a help link for every single label that has the label name in it. Then the user would be able to know which field that is. Right? Would that be the
Yeah.
right answer? I'm sure Kathy would love that answer.
You know,
Could show you how to make a
Yeah,
package.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's a good workaround. I did the quick thing of just taking a screenshot when I could see the labels and say, these are the labels, just follow that pattern.
If you click the view dependency, see if it shows up. It should open a pop-up that'll have all of the fields. See if the label shows when you click the view dependency, since it's like a dependent pick list.
Yeah.
That pop-up should show the ones too.
Well, like I said, I can't do that. Well, I'll tell them to do that because I can't do it because I see the labels. So to me, it looks normal. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Forgive me if we already threw this out there, but if your client reports this again, are you able to log in as them?
yes. And when I logged in as them, I could see it,
Gotcha.
which tends to lead me to think that it may, but I didn't look at the browser. So it might actually be the browser issue, or at least I'm guessing that might be it, but we'll find out when I go in and look.
all right. Well, good luck, Kathy. Keep us posted.
Mhm.
I will.
We'll learn through your pain. Clayton, you had a question?
Yeah, just a quick one. If someone else has a more serious one, I'm just starting to research tasks. And I noticed last night when I was doing some documentation for some users, you got tasks, then you got follow-up tasks. And I read the documentation about the example of, you may have a task on an opportunity, but then you could do a follow-up once the opportunity is closed. And I'm just kind of wondering, are there other type of tasks? Can you elaborate anything about tasks? I haven't done my research yet, but I thought I'd ask.
That is a very limited question. Tasks and events as the conglomerate activity object, like you can do pretty much anything you want with them as long as you make it like really wide and flat. So if you can set up follow-up tasks, I believe, like when you create a task, if I'm remembering correctly, maybe this is classic. When you're filling out a task, you can then establish a follow-up task, or somebody help me here. It's been way too long.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Simple
Um,
automation, yeah.
yeah, but they don't. Salesforce, I think, deliberately doesn't give you much with it because they want you, with it having the polymorphic parent, they put all their oomph into letting tasks be related to literally every object if you say, yes, I want them to be. They didn't do much else beyond that. So like what business need are you trying to solve with this as you're looking through follow-up tasks? I think really that's the driver. What are you trying to solve with it?
Essentially, I was working with someone in accounts receivable, and they were wanting to set up assigned tasks to other people. And I was trying to document it. And as I explored tasks, obviously we set up calls and things of that nature. And I just happened to come across the option for a follow-up task, and you're trying to document something, and all of a sudden you see this other option, and that's this was a 5:30 at late in the day exercise last night. So
it's already been built and you're documenting it, is what you're saying.
yeah, I'm trying to document it for specific need, and I got through the helping them know how to assign tasks to other people. I do have one follow-up question once we get past this related to tasks. I could ask it now or wait a minute.
Before you do, I just really quick, I always struggled because our firm uses tasks for literally everything, even things that aren't tasks. And
Do we lose Squire?
I feel like there was a freezing. There was a frozen. He was gonna say something really exciting, and I also agree with him. I was gonna say we also do that. Our organization sets up tasks to be like future opportunities and future reference calls and future this, and it's like, well, then you're just making a million tasks, and they are. The follow-up task is there's a follow-up task and a follow-up event inside of Salesforce after you do a task or after you do an event. There's a one-click way that Salesforce has put in there for you to do, hey, I want to do a follow-up task or a follow-up event using this same account, using the same opportunity, using the same whatever, and it just populates all that stuff into this next task that you're building. And that provides the solutions for that particular requirement. But it's a matter of, is that the business requirement you're trying to solve?
Yeah, and in this particular case, I was trying to understand, beyond what we had been doing with tasks, I was trying to understand and document, in our world, and came across the follow-up, which, I was trying to understand that. So
You're trying to apply like a semi-standard piece of functionality to documentation to support something that's already been built, rather than, can I use this to build the solution? Right.
yeah, I just didn't want to get a left question out of the left going, well, there's another option here for a follow-up task. And my follow-up question would be, let's say you have one sales rep that leaves and another one that comes in and inherits all these accounts that have all these old tasks built up. Again, I haven't done my homework, but would that be something where you could go out into the database and simply eliminate that flag?
Short answer is yes. I'll leave it at that. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, you can. You have to find the ID of all the tasks, of who's assigned to. And then you have to, if you just want to close it, you just have to set a flag. False or true, done or not done. And also to transfer all the records. And this is something probably I want to know too. is the depend how many you have. If I have 10, I'll do it manually. If I have more than 10, I'll probably just export and change the ID and assign it to the other person, which it takes a minute or two.
So like
You can go in the
using-
database and change whatever you want. You just have to know how to do it.
So if there's a number of them, I could go into like data loader and adjust the flag in data loader.
Yeah,
It's a little bit more complex than that, because
Yeah.
even though there's a status, there's also a is completed, and there's also a date completed. Like it gets a little tricky, but yeah, more or less, right?
Mm-hmm.
I heard someone while I was trying to get my computer to not be frozen comment too, like definitely know what you're dealing with as far as scope before you start doing
yes.
change, because tasks can really cause you headaches, especially if they've got recurring tasks built. It might not seem like you've got more than a couple, but if they've got a recurring date on them, there's could be hundreds out there that you don't realize until you open up the hood.
And there's also the question of, by default, closed tasks get archived after a year. Is that based on when they were closed or some other date? I've never wrapped my brain around that, because
The due
you may
date.
run into, depending on what that answer is, if you go out and close a bunch of really old tasks, you may then immediately lose them because they've been archived, which are harder to pull back. So just something to be cognizant of.
Also, before you delete, backups are good because someone will ask you bulk delete, someone will ask for it the next day. It's luck. Just
Hopefully they
save
ask the day, because you can undo it. It's 15 days, that's the problem, right?
depending
Right.
on how much you delete.
Fair.
Yeah.
Been there. Wasn't fun.
Been there, done that, emotionally ate afterward.
Make sure you design on a piece of paper, because it sounds like if you start going with the follow-up tasks, you're just going into a spider web. Yeah, we used tasks before and then we actually eliminated them. I created a custom object, more simplified, and it works just simple, and it works. But
I want to know
again,
more about that statement. That makes me nervous.
Yeah, because you lose the polymorphic. Like
The
of
custom
all your
object?
base tasks doesn't do well. It does that one thing really well.
And they're half
Yeah.
standard object too.
Right.
yeah, they stopped using tasks, and basically they only needed, like, I think it was to somebody else before earlier today. They already really needed a way to register a call report to see what they talk about. But the consultant that built the call report used tasks, and it just created a mess because it marked as done as soon as they created one. So they click the button, they type their things, and it will be done, and then it will disappear. And then we have to find that the activities were not set up correctly. So the business need, let's say, changed after they got the experience.
Hear me out. Logging a call for an activity for a call that was made and what was talked about on the call. That's just about as vanilla like task usage as possible.
Pretty much the like default use case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe they just used the log a call, which auto puts like the predefined field to like completed, because like you did it, like the new task quick action that would be there would be the creates a status of open or whatever your default is. Might have just been the wrong action.
Yeah, I didn't build it. So I was probably, that's what the case was. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Sarah, do you want to talk about your self-solved problem, or are you good?
No, I mean, it was a simple, I was just being lazy and didn't look up the permissions I needed to do something. And then I looked it up and then I figured it out.
Cool.
But I was going to ask you all if you were here, but it's about custom labels and the infuriating fact that you need to have customized application in order to be able to edit the value of a custom label. So I guess a follow-up question for that is there's something else instead of a custom label that I could use that I could like chunk off a different permission to give people to use that and but still have the functionality of custom label.
So say some more about the use case. I've not
Yeah.
heard anyone do this.
So we use custom labels to control a lot of things in our Experience Cloud, especially and in flows. So right now, the particular one is there's a custom label that sets our program year because when we have our programs in the summer, we sometimes start working on them the year before. And so you don't want it to just be the calendar year. It needs to be the program year. So we've set that to be like, oh, this is just the value, whatever the value is in the label. And we use that to reference it at a bunch of different places. So, and I have up until this point have been the main one who is like, I go in and change it once a year and it's fine, but it'd be nice if somebody else could do that, especially if I'm not around or whatever. So, I would love for them to be able to update custom label values, but
Gotcha.
you need to have customized application to do that. And that's a very powerful permission.
Well, I know
So-
what I've seen implemented for, now this would be custom metadata, but I think it works the same way.
Yeah, that could work.
Is you can have an Apex class that gets triggered and someone has an actual object that is like your
Ah,
object, and only certain people have access to that record, and they can modify that one record with like what's our current date. We were using it for multi-currency. So rather than
Mhm.
someone put a multi-currency table, they were just bringing up a single record that had everything, and we had an Apex class that went through and used the metadata API to make
I like
change.
that.
And now you could say, I'm going to delegate that feature to someone who's actually just using the interface, doesn't need the rest of it.
I love that. Yeah,
You could
no, that's a
even do,
great
like,
idea.
make like an invocable Apex action. Maybe ChatGPT can make one, and you could throw in like a screen flow and then just put it on a tab and only give access to set the screen flow to only be accessible by people you want. And then they just
Sure.
open it and they can change it through a screen. Then you can like really tightly lock it down to just like the flow itself.
Yeah, I love that.
Isn't
Both of those ideas.
isn't a screen flow going to run in context of the user who wouldn't have the ability to necessarily give themselves the permissions you're looking for, or is that still
System
allowing you
context.
tapping at a system?
Not if you set it to run in system, but this might be a weird place that it might break. Yeah, I don't.
I just put some Apex in, like Squire said. Either way, like, or record triggered, whatever.
Yeah. You're
Love
basically
that.
just putting the app into thinking it's a user that can do what they're doing when they're not doing it at all, right? So
Yeah. Have them
I'm on-
modify something else that then triggers the modification I want it to do. I
I'm
love
just
that.
gonna be the Debbie Downer and say, be prepared for that to get future proofed sometime in a future release when Salesforce realizes, oh, people are doing that. That might be a problem. And okay, no
Yeah,
more. See guest user profiles.
right, right.
But
Fair enough, but at the same time, they should like, I don't know, this is a Cheryl problem of like, those things should be, you don't need to see all data, modify all data, right?
I had a conversation with her approximately about this exact thing, approximately 65 minutes ago.
There you go.
Like, and this exact topic came up, but it was just a different thing that is tied to that exact same permission.
And I know she's well aware of that problem.
She's listening.
so-
She's listening to us right now. I love questions
Yeah.
that come from Sarah and or Andrew and or both, because that means that there's a Dreamforce session being concocted behind the scenes.
Maybe not this year for me. I'll
Yeah,
be,
I know you're busy, but it's okay. I'm busy too. We'll both
Yeah.
have to be watching from virtual. I also did have this conversation, but just let me make a point that you can do security things on the UI layer and in the integration layer that don't correspond to the data model layer. But there's a warning to that someone else, some other team could come across and say, well, I'll just build my own UI. I'll just build my own integration to that data. And as long as you haven't secured it, you haven't got your rules at the data layer, you're free. It's a free for all for anybody else that wants to access that data. So, and I know
Yeah.
that's not what you're talking about here. You're talking about, changing the metadata around it, but still
Mhm.
think about it when you're like, oh, I've solved this problem for my one scope of users and for my one user interface. That's great. But what about the next time someone comes around to that data set that's not secured or not set the way that you thought it was? They can make all the changes they want to make.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good point.
Just turn on quick create. All right, see you folks.
You can't do that. Mike, drop us with a quick create.
Sure I can. I just did. I gotta go meet with my manager, so I'm out.
Take care now.
Love you all. See you in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
I don't know how to log off. Let's see. I'm so technically